Now, the title of this year, which was given to me, is a difficult title. It was, What Does Hanukkah Mean to Me? Well, I could speak for a minute without hesitation and deviation about what Hanukkah means to me. Of course, it means Hanukkah gelt, latkes, dreidel, donuts, lighting the lights, etc. However, I'm sure you want to know more in depth of what the meaning of Hanukkah is. So I thought we'll start off by picking the first number which comes to mind when someone mentions Hanukkah to you. And I'm sure most people, it's gone into their mind now to think of the number 8. And that's quite plausible, because we know there's 8 lights on the Chanuka candle, there's 8 days to Hanukkah. So the number 8, the miracle lasted for 8 days. So it's quite understandable why people should think of the number 8. But what I would like to discover with you this evening is the more significant number we should bear in mind when it comes to Hanukkah is the number 1. And of course, the miracle started because there was only one jug of oil. And that one singular jug of oil is the cause of the miracle which we celebrate. Of course, there's another significance in the number 1, because 1 is a reference, of course, to Hashem. Hashem is Echad. Hashem is one. And as we say in Shema, Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem, who has the attribute of Rachamim, is also Elokeinu, who has the attribute of justice as well. But when it's all encapsulated together, the definition of everything is Hashem Echad. Hashem is one. And therefore, let us focus for this evening on the number 1 element of the nights of Hanukkah. The Rambam, in fact, when he says in the 4th chapter of the laws of Hanukkah, he says, how many lights do we light on Hanukkah? And he answers, the mitzvah sheyehi kol bayis ubayis madlik ner echad. The mitzvah is to light 1 light. For every day of Hanukkah, you light 1 light, and you fulfill the mitzvah of lighting and celebrating the mitzvah of Hadlokas Haner of Hanukkah. Now, that is, whether you have 1 member in the household or many members in the household, the integral mitzvah is just 1 light. And then, of course, there's an element of mahadrin. That means if a person, he wants to comply with the mitzvah and do it in a better manner, so then he'll light 1 light for each member of his household. So if there's 5 people there, they will light 5 lights on the first night, 5 on the second, 5 on the third, until the 8th night. Just 1 candle each, because the stress is on the 1. The Gemara says, "Ner ish ubeisa," in the singular. It's a light for each household. However, there is also an extra stage of fulfilling the mitzvah, which is what our custom is nowadays, and that's called mahadrin mina mahadrin, that we add on an extra light for every night of Hanukkah. And also for the entire family, all those who are lighting, even though the mitzvah is integrally for 1 person, but it's added on 1 extra for each member, and then we add on an extra light for all the 8 days. So this is teaching us that the celebration we have on Hanukkah is a celebration of our independence as a nation to serve Hashem, and that we're not going to be forced by the nations of the world to change from our monotheistic religion to our religion where we believe Hashem is Echad, and the Greek polytheism. That means the Greeks who followed many gods, they should not have any control over us. And there was also the Hellenistic Jews who they themselves wanted to make a combination between our religion and the Gentile religions. They wanted to bridge the gap. And there were the Hellenizers who sided more with the Gentiles, with the Greeks, than they did with the Jewish people. So we celebrate the light over darkness. Our Torah is a light. Our way of life is a light. As David HaMelech said, Ner leragli devarecha, that your words, Hashem, are a light for my path. We celebrate the light, which is a triumph over darkness. It's light symbolizes salvation. Darkness symbolizes suffering. Light symbolizes happiness. Darkness symbolizes hardship. And this is encapsulated in a pasuk. The pasuk says in Tehillim, chapter 18, Ki ata to'ir neri, that you, Hashem, will light my lamp, you will illuminate my lamp. Hashem Elokai, Hashem my God. Now here you have again the word Hashem, which is the attribute of mercy, and Elokim, which is an attribute of din. So Hashem Elokai Yagia Choshki, that Hashem my God, you will illuminate my darkness. So again, you Hashem, you will bring happiness over hardship, salvation over suffering, because you bring light, and the light will triumph over. Ki Hashem, you are my light. Ki ata to'im. David HaMelech says that you, Hashem, will light up my light. Hashem Elokai yagia choshki. So it's a pasuk in Tehillim chapter 18, and I had a look at the commentaries on that pasuk to see if it has any reference to us. And straight away, I found in the Targum on the side, and I'll translate it for you. The Targum says that you are the master of illumination, and so you kindle a ray of light for Israel in exile. That the Targum connects this pasuk of light over darkness. I can hear the background of someone who's doing their dishes and they haven't muted.
Yeah.
So,
will you please mute?
If they are doing the dishes and they haven't muted, then they should do the dishes quietly. The pasuk says that you are our light, ki ata to'ir neri. You will light up my lamp. The Targum says it's a reference. Darkness is a reference to Golus, and light is a sign of redemption. So the pasuk is referring to the general darkness and the general light, which we recognize Hashem is in our control. And therefore, even in the darkness, HaKadosh Baruch Hu brings us light. And the pasuk at the beginning of the Torah, when we're told, V'choshech al pnei sahoim, was darkness which covers the depths. The Medrash on that pasuk infers the choshech is a reference to Malchus Yavon. It's a reference to the kingdom of the Greeks, because they darkened the eyes of Israel with their decrees. And I was looking at a book, it was called Sefer Megillas Antiochos. We would translate it as a book of the Maccabees. And some want to say this book goes back all those years ago till the Maccabees themselves. It's a bit hard to understand that because they wouldn't call a Megillah, even though it starts off by he bimei Antiochos, you wouldn't call a Megillah by the name of a wicked person like Antiochos. For example, when we have Megillas Esther, we call it Megillas Esther. She's the heroine. We don't call it Megillas Achashverosh, even though it starts the same way, Vayihi bimei Achashverosh. So this book, I don't know how authentic it is or how genuine it is, but it gives the brief summary of what went on. That the wicked kings tried imposing their ideas of how we should live. They wanted to ban the bris milah, they wanted to ban the luach, the chodesh we have, and they wanted to ban the keeping of Shabbos. And then they wanted to ban the service in the Beis Hamikdash. They defiled the Beis Hamikdash. And then Yehuda HaMaccabee came and fought back, and we had the war. And eventually Hashem gave us salvation. And then we rededicated the Beis Hamikdash, and we were able to light the Menorah once more. So we see the connection between the Golus, the exile we're in, the domination of the Gentiles over our culture, and Hanukkah symbolizes our survival from it. And even though it was only a temporary survival, because in fact, once they weakened the Greeks, the Greek influence went down in the world and the vacuum was taken over by the Romans. And within 200 years, the Romans became the dominant empire in the world, and they actually destroyed the Beis Hamikdash. The Greeks were happy to keep the Beis Hamikdash, just we shouldn't use it in this manner it should be used. But the Romans went a step further, and they in fact destroyed the Beis Hamikdash. But yet, along the long golos, throughout the exile, we've still been celebrating Hanukkah. And Hanukkah is with us, it's the light in the darkness. And even in the concentration camps, the Jews did whatever they could to try and light a Hanukkah light during Hanukkah. Hanukkah, as we know in the Northern Hemisphere, it always comes out in December. And December is a month, it's always bleak, it's always dark. The days are the shortest. The 21st of December is the shortest day of the year. Therefore, it's the darkest day because the night is the longest. And in that time, that's when we have these lights burning bright. And they are to show us, Ki ata to'eneri, that you, Hashem, will light my lamp. Hashem elika yagia choshki. You, Hashem, will illuminate my darkness. So that was the Targum, which connects the Posuk to Golos. The Radak on the Posuk says, To'e, you enlighten, because the suffering, the sorrows, is compared to darkness. And the salvation from it is like a light and brightness. And therefore you, Hashem, or Yagia Choshki, that you will illuminate our darkness, meaning we have to recognize that only Hashem can save us from suffering and shine a light of redemption upon us. Rav Hirsch, he explains in a similar manner, and he tells us that the word ner is used to portray personal happiness. Ner is a light. It's like a person who feels enlightened because he's in a happy frame of mind. So here it means in this pasuk, if the light of happiness shone brightly for me, it means that God gives that light and the knowledge that Hashem Elekai, Hashem, my God, is the God who is the attribute of justice, visited suffering upon me in order to discipline me, is also the God of eternal love who brought light even into the darkest hours of my suffering. So in other words, we would have been better off, theoretically, had we not had the Romans come along and destroy the temple, had we not had the Greeks fighting with us. Many people died in those wars. Many people suffered greatly. So here, what are we celebrating? Big Yeshakoyach. Thank you very much, Hashem, for bringing us salvation. But why did he bring the suffering as well? And the answer is, says Rav Hirsch, is because even though it's God who brings suffering, it's in order to discipline me. It's in order to make us better people. Hashem does everything with rachamim. HaKadosh Baruch Hu does everything with his infinite kindness. And we have to recognize the kindness in the darkness. When things look bleak and when things are hard, we've still got to recognize with emunah shalema, with full faith, that is HaKadosh Baruch Hu is teaching us a lesson. And only HaKadosh Baruch Hu can take the suffering away from us. And he is Kiata Toye Nevi, you will light up my lamp. Meaning, says Rabbi, you will bring me happiness. You will bring that bright day once more. It will glow once more for me. Because Hashem Elikai Yagia Choshki, you're the only one who can bring lightness to the world. So, in fact, in the last several months, as we know, the world has been really plagued with darkness. People have been isolated. People have been put under tremendous duress and strain. Unfortunately, people have been hit with the illness of COVID, Rahman al-Islam, and it's been a year of suffering. However, we have to recognize that Hashem is a boirei refuos. The Almighty creates cures. I heard a doctor saying that what they've discovered now in a period of 10 months, that they've introduced a new method of vaccine which works on the DNA of a person, which something they've been working on some vaccines for many, many years, not been successful. They've never discovered a vaccine against the common cold. They haven't got a vaccine against malaria, against HIV virus. They've been working for 30 years to try and get a vaccine against HIV. They haven't found it. But here in such a short space of time, a monumental effort by all the scientists who are working on it throughout the world, they've cracked into something, a method of cure which this doctor said they can use the technology of this, like affecting the DNA, that it should recognize certain illnesses and certain viruses, that they can use it and develop it, that one day it will be used to cure cancers and things like that. So in other words, there was a year of suffering, but we don't realize how much light this is bringing to the world and how much cure and salvation will bring to the world. And that is our tefillah, that Hashem should bring the refuah, and the Kodesh Baruch Hu, he should certainly prevent any of Klal Yisrael or any of the world suffering from this terrible, debilitating disease. And as soon as possible, we should be able to come out of this darkness, and then the light will shine bright once more. There is another aspect to the light. And what do we celebrate on Hanukkah? We celebrate the light of the Menorah. The Menorah was in the Beis Hamikdash. The Menorah symbolizes knowledge and Torah. As we know, it says Torah oyer, the Torah is a light. So the Menorah symbolizes these things. That's very interesting. I heard from Diane Ehrentreu that he should get a refuah shalema, Chanoch ben Blimala, a refuah shalema. He said an interesting observation. When you would enter the Beis Hamikdash, you would see the Menorah B'Doraim. You would see the Menorah was on the south side. And the Shulchan, the table with the showbread, that was on the right. Menorah B'Doraim, Shulchan Tofin is on the right. Now the Menorah symbolizes knowledge and Torah, and the Shulchan symbolizes Parnasa and monetary success. So he says, isn't it slightly odd that when you're looking into the temple, into the Ulam, you see the priority on your right-hand side seems to be materialism. It seems to be sustenance and bread and work and toil. And the Menorah is on the left side. He said, that's true when you enter the temple. But once you've been inside and you turn to go out, then your priorities change. Then already you see the Menorah is now on your right side. The knowledge of Torah, that is what's most important. And the other aspects of material life, that's delegated to the left. That will be only on the left side. But you need to have the impetus of the holy and sacred Beis Hamikdash in order for us to change our attitudes to life. So our main attitudes, our focus should be that HaKadosh Baruch Hu has given us the Torah. That is the light to show us our way. Then the mitzvah of the Menorah in the Beis Hamikdash, the Chinuch tells us there's a very simple reason why we have the Menorah at all. And he says like this in Mitzvah Mitzvah 98. It says the root of the mitzvah of the Menorah. Now, just to let you know how important it is to light the Menorah. We know on Shabbos, the Torah defines the prime example of breaking Shabbos is someone who makes a fire on Shabbos. It says, Lo savaru eish b'chol mosh v'yseichem b'yom HaShabbos. You must make sure you do not desecrate the Shabbos by burning a fire. Now, in the old days, they'll burn a fire for heat and for light. Nowadays, they'll burn a fire by going in the car and turning the ignition on. And that symbolizes Chilul Shabbos. You see someone, Zakas V'Sholom, driving his car on Shabbos, that is the epitome of Chilul Shabbos. If a person will burn his coal fire, set it up on Shabbos, that's Chilul Shabbos. If a person will light a cigarette on Shabbos, that is Chilul Shabbos. The biggest example of Chilul Shabbos is Lo Savaru Eish, do not burn a fire. And yet, in the Beis Hamikdash, in the holiest place on earth, we had the Menorah, and the mitzvah of Menorah is to light the Menorah even on Shabbos. It's a mitzvah tomid, just like the mitzvah of the bringing the korbanos. It must be done on Shabbos. The keves ha'echad, the tamidim, the korbanos we bring daily are brought, they override Shabbos, and lighting of the Menorah overrides Shabbos. And in there, where did they get the flame to illuminate the Menorah? They got it direct from the Mizbech, from the holy altar. That was where the flame was. They lit a wick that was placed in the Menorah, in the Ner Ma'aravi, and then the other wicks were bent over to take their flame from that one wick. So the Menorah is very important. Now, what is its significance? Says the Chinuch, we've been commanded by HaKadosh Baruch Hu that the light of the menorah should light in the Beis Hamikdash, and the reason is lahagadolas habayis lechovod ulesifaras be'enei haroyim, to give the impression on the people who view it of the splendor and the glory which the house of the Beis Hamikdash has. In other words, the menorah is very highly symbolic. Not only is it the coat of arms for the state of Israel, the symbol is the menorah, right? That is the definition on the coinage. You see the sign of the menorah. The Israeli official stamp is the stamp with the menorah on it. But the menorah also is to illuminate the Beis Hamikdash, like you would have a chandelier in a stately home in order to show how important the home is. Likewise, we had the menorah in the Beis Hamikdash, lahagadolas habayis lechovod ulesifaras be'enei haroyim, for people to see the glory and the splendor, because there is a beautiful light burning there. And he says that is the way of people. They get honored in their own houses when they light lights in the house. Nowadays we're spoiled because we have electricity, but in the old days it was a candle which was burning to bring light in the house. We're fortunate enough that we've got these LEDs which don't even cost very much to run. One flick of a switch and then you're blasted by 6,500 kelvins of light, and we're like flooded with light. But nevertheless, the idea is, the concept is that the light shows honor to the place. And he explains further that this idea that a person should put in his mind this thought of the splendor, and it should come into him, therefore, the fear of the Almighty, and we should be humbled before him. That when we see a magnificent sight of this beautiful candelabra, gold candelabra, with these burning lights on it, not only did a miracle happen that the lights never went out, that they were just tinkered with, but they carried on burning. For years and years and years, the Ner HaMa'aravi carried on burning, and that was a symbol of HaKadosh Baruch Hu's connection to us, that our light will never be extinguished. But it also tells us to have in mind the splendor and the kavod of the Almighty. So there is a very interesting medrash. And this medrash talks as an introduction to the mitzvah of lighting the menorah. The mitzvah of lighting the menorah, what's needed is in Parshas Tetzaveh, and the mitzvah of performing it, we're instructed in Parshas Emor. So in Parshas Emor, the Torah says, the medrash says as follows: that Bar Kapara Posach, Bar Kapara, he introduced the posuk as follows. I'll just read out the pasuk. It's in Parshas Emor, chapter 24. Vayadaber Hashem el Moshe Lemar. Hashem spoke to Moshe to say, Tabes b'nei Yisrael, instruct the children of Israel. V'yikchu eilecha, and they should take for you shemen zayis zach, pure olive oil, kosis lamar, which has specially been squeezed for the light, because it has to be the most finest first few drops of the olive can be used. Once there's a little bit of sediment in it after being squeezed, then you cannot use that for the menorah. You can use it for a carbon, for a mincha, but you can't use that. The menorah must have the purest oil which comes from the olive. And the mitzvah is lahalois ner tom, to uplift a light constantly. Says Bakapara, Ki ato to'eneri. He quotes this pasuk we mentioned before, that you, Hashem, will light up my lamp. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu says to mankind, Nerecha b'yodi, your light is in my hand. V'neiri, and my light, b'yodecha, is in your hand. Nerecha b'yodi, your light is in my hand, as the pasuk says, Ner Hashem nishmas Adam. The soul of man is the light of God. In other words, the only reason we're alive is because Hashem has given us this divine spark inside every person, which gives us life. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu calls it a light of God. Ner Hashem nishmas Adam. And that is, therefore, our lives are dependent upon the mercy of God. That's Ner Biyodi. Your light is in my hand, is in my control. Ner Hashem Nishmas Adam. And then the Medrash continues, but Neri Biyodcha. But my light is in your hands. And that's what the Pasuk says, Laha lois ner tomid. They have a constant light. So this is incredible, this. That the light of the Menorah wasn't just for Aaron HaKohen. It wasn't just for the Kohenim. But it's for every single person. Everyone who's alive has got the light of Hashem. And Hashem is holding that light. And then we've got Hashem's light, that is the light of the Menorah. Of course, the Menorah is a symbol of Torah, of education. Like David HaMelech said, Ner leragli devarecha va'or linsivasi. That your light, Hashem, will lighten my path. And Rashi says there on the Apostle that whenever I have a difficulty, said David HaMelech, I look in Torah and the Torah will illuminate our way. So here we're told that Neri biyodcha v'nercha biyodi, that your light is in my hand, but my light is in your hand. That means it's our duty to illuminate the world with spirituality. It's our duty, first of all, to illuminate our own lives, and it's our duty to spread that illumination to others. As we know, the Pasuk in Yeshaya says, the duty of Klal Yisrael is to be an oil lagoyim. We've got to be a light to the nations. We've got to be living on a higher moral standard. We've got to be more knowledgeable of the ways of Hashem, and we've got to be more committed to the ways of Hashem. That we believe Hashem Echad. The Goyim, they had many gods, they had many ideas, and eventually they'll all disappear into the faint distance, because there'll come a time when they'll recognize that we are the ones who carry Hashem's light. And this is what we say, in fact, in the Chodoidim. On Friday night, when we're bringing Shabbos in, we say these special words. I'll just think it out here. Friday night davening. Hisoyri. Wake up, wake up. Kiva oirech, because for your light has come. Kumi oiri. Rise up and shine. The Jewish people have to rise up and shine. We are a light. And Hashem's saying, wake up, kiba oirech, that your light has come. Kumi oiri. Then we say, uri, uri, awaken, awaken. Shir daberi, utter a song. Kavoid Hashem, because the glory of Hashem, olayich nigla, is revealed on you. That our duty is to get the message of Hanukkah. Hanukkah is ner echad. It's one light, because as Hashem echad, there's one God. And that one God is holding your light, and we're holding his light. And that light has got to illuminate everything we do in life. That's why we say when the redemption comes, it's hisoyri, hisoyri. Wake up, kiva oirech, because your light has come. Kumi oiri, rise up and shine. Hanukkah is in the darkest time of the year. Hanukkah symbolizes the idea, the concept that Torah is the light of our lives, and Torah is what's got to shine the way before us, and it's got to illuminate our ways. Now let us bring another Rambam to show how this comes into practice. So there's a Rambam at the very end of the laws of Chanuka, and it's very interesting, and it defines from a law of the Mitzvah of Chanuka how we should conduct ourselves. And it says like this: Mitzvah Chanuka is at the end of chapter 4, Halacha Yud Beit. The Mitzvah Chanuka, the Mitzvah of the light of Chanuka, Mitzvah Chaviva hi ad ma'od, is an exceptionally important mitzvah, but and everyone must be very careful with this mitzvah, in order to publicize the miracle. When the chances of our survival were very low, the most powerful nation in the world conquered us. The Greek Empire was running rampant. They even made 13 breaches into the walls of the Beis Hamikdash, and they defiled it. Everything, we had lost control. The chances of our coming back were very slim. But Hashem performed a miracle. And the miracle is symbolized by us lighting every year the Hanukkah candles. So therefore, this mitzvah of lighting a Hanukkah candle, even though it's only rabbinic, but it's elevated because it's called a mitzvah of pirsum hanes, of publicizing a miracle. And when mitzvah, even though it's only rabbinic, when it comes to publicizing a miracle, it's deemed with very, very great emphasis. And the mitzvah, it says the Rambam, a person has to be very careful with it. To publicize the miracle, and to increase with our praise to God, and our thanks to Him, for the miracles He's done to us. So we have to think a minute. Hashem has done miracles to us. We're all survivors. We're alive and kicking, and therefore we've got to be grateful to God that we survived 2020. Baruch Hashem, the terrible disease which haunted the world. Baruch Hashem, we can tell the story that we've survived. Now, says the Rambam, to define it, just to put this in context. The law is, when we fulfill a mitzvah, there's a limit how much you need to spend on it. For example, to fulfill a mitzvah asay, a positive mitzvah from the Torah, you don't need to spend more than a fifth of your wealth. So if a person, for example, he hasn't got any tefillin, and he's a poor man, he can't afford a pair of tefillin, and say he's got 4,000 pounds, and he inquires how much is a pair of tefillin, and they tell him it's 1,000 pounds. Well, he says, well, hang on, 1,000 will be 25% of my cash. And for mitzvahs, I say, I only need to spend up to a fifth. So I'll only need to spend £800, and this is 1,000 pounds. So I don't need to purchase that. And if there's no mitzvah, no tefillin anywhere available, he's potter, because he's not expected to spend more than a fifth of his money. What he ought to do is, if he can't afford it, he should go to a friend and borrow a pair and put it on for free. But it may be difficult to do that. But we're not chuyev to spend more than a fifth. When it comes to not transgressing a loisase, a negative precept, then the penalty is far higher. And the halacha is, a person's got to give all his money away so as not to transgress a loisase. For example, if someone offers him that he's got to eat a hamburger from McDonald's, and he knows, oh, it's chazer treif, it's not a veggie burger, it's a hamburger. It's mamash treif, a kazayas treif there. The Torah says it's forbidden. So they say, listen, if you don't do it, you'll pay a penalty. He says, what's the penalty? He says, it's £4,000. He says, well, that's all the money I've got. Take it. I'm prepared to give all the money away so as not to transgress one lav in the Torah. That's it. And there's three exceptions to that, and that is, there are certain mitzvahs which are so severe, a person's not only got to pay all his money not to transgress, he's got to pay with his life. And one of them is avodah zarah, so he shouldn't leave the religion. Second one is immorality, not to have any forbidden relationships. And the third one is an understandable one, is shvichas domim, not to commit a murder. That he says, you commit murder? He says, no. Then we'll kill you if you don't kill him. He says, what can I do? I'm not allowed to kill him. The Torah says it's forbidden. So three are very, very strict. The rest of the Torah, you just give your money away so as not to transgress. But if they say, oh, if you don't eat this hamburger, I'm going to shoot you. So you say, well, give me the hamburger. I don't know whether he makes a bracha on it then, because you can't make a bracha on a tray for food. But on the other hand, he's entitled to eat it because he's saving his life. So I'm not quite sure about what the din is. But when it comes to a mitzvah, I say a positive mitzvah, that you don't need to pay more than a fifth of your money. Now here we're talking about not a mitzvah from the Torah, a mitzvah midrabanan. A mitzvah midrabanan is far less important when it comes to a penalty to the mitzvahs of the Torah. But here you see a unique feature. Because the lights of Hanukkah are pirsum hanes, is to publicize the miracle, therefore there's a higher cost to pay. And says the Rambam, even if you've got nothing to eat, you rely on charity for your food. That means you've got no money at all, not just 25%, a fifth of your money, 20% to give away, but even he hasn't got any money at all. Shoyel, he's got to borrow or beg, or to sell his shirt, shemen, to buy oil, the neiros and the wicks, candelabra or madlik. So in order for him to fulfill the mitzvah, he's got to beg and borrow, or even sell his shirt off his back in order to fulfill the mitzvah of lighting one light on Hanukkah. And then the Rambam continues, and this is where it gets very interesting, where you see how the concept of the mitzvah, it should shine a light on how our daily conduct should be. It says, Hari she'ein lo ela pruta achas. This pauper has only got one pruta. He's only got 1 shilling. Or the fun of kiddush hayom, and he's got 2 mitzvahs to do. One of them is to make kiddush on Friday night, to buy a little bit of grape juice, v'hadlokas ner Chanuka, or to light a light for Chanukkah. So the din is, says the Rambam, makdim liknoi shemen lahadling ner Chanuka. Like we've just explained, that the rabbinic mitzvah of lighting Chanukkah is far superior because it's connected to Pirsum Hanes, to publicizing the miracle. So even though normally we say a more frequent mitzvah has precedence, but here the mitzvah of Chanukkah overrides the common mitzvah of Kiddush on Friday night. So Magdim Liknoi Shemen Lahadin Chanukkah Alayayin Lekiddush Hayom, he therefore ought to spend his shilling on buying lights for Chanukkah lights rather than spending it on wine for Kiddush. Because both of them are rabbinic mitzvahs. Chanukah has precedence because in it has the memory of the miracle. Now here the Rambam comes to the final example, halachically. Now on Friday night we have Shabbos candles. And Shabbos candles are different to Hanukkah candles. Hanukkah candles, we put a light on the side, but we're not allowed to have any benefit from it, only to look at them. We can look at them and admire them and then sing Ma'oisor. I'm not going to give you an example now of Ma'oisor because it's not a comedy show. So we sing Ma'oisor or Hanei Salanu. And, as one Rav said, if I could sing, then I'd be perfect. So I am with that thought. It says, Hoya Lufono. This person has 2 mitzvahs to do. He has the mitzvah of lighting his Shabbos candle or lighting the Menorah. Now, the Shabbos candle is different. We don't just look at the Shabbos candles. Shabbos candles are there for the important purpose of bringing illumination into the house, so you should enjoy your meal better, enjoy the Shabbos better, and there should be light around that you shouldn't trip up over things which are left on the floor. If you've left your shoes lying around and then you're walking without shoes on and you can't see where you're going, it's easy to stub your toe on something on the ground. So therefore we have a mitzvah on Shabbos to have a light there so no one should trip up, no one should get upset, no one should get angry. And in fact, you should have a meal which is more enjoyable, literally a candle-lit dinner, and it should bring a nice harmony into the house. So now the Rambam says, remember so far, he's explained the mitzvah of Hanukkah is very important. It's more important than the Shabbos Kiddush because it's a mitzvah of Pirsum Hanes. Now the Rambam says, Hoya Lefonov, this pauper has got before him this following option. Ner Beisoi, the Shabbos candle, the Ner Hanukkah, or Hanukkah candle. Oiner Beisoi, the Kiddush Hayom. Or he could have similarly enough money either for his Shabbos candle or for his cup for Kiddush on Friday night. So which mitzvah is more important? Which one would you think is more important? Is Hanukkah more important? Because of Pirsum Hanes, he's got to take his shirt off his back or beg and borrow to get that money to buy the Hanukkah candle. We don't say he's got to beg and borrow for his Kiddush wine or for his for Shabbos candles. The Rambam says, Nevertheless, what is more important here is the Shabbos candle is more important than the Hanukkah candle. However great Hanukkah is, this is superseded by your Shabbos candle. Mishum Shalom Beisai, because the Shabbos candle symbolizes peace in the home. Shahare Hashem Nimchak La'asoi Shalom Ben Ish Leishtai. And in fact, the whole of Yiddishkeit is depending on making harmony in the home, making it a very pleasant relationship between man and wife. And Godol HaShalom, Shalom is greater than anything else. Shekol HaTorah Nitna, because the entire Torah is given to you, La'asoi Shalom Ba'olam, to make peace in the world. Shenema, as the Pasuk says, the ways of the Torah are ways of pleasantness, Shalom, and all its paths lead to peace. So in other words, peace, harmony, that is the most important lesson we can learn from Hanukkah. What it's telling us is unity. We said, what is the most important number of Hanukkah? It's number 1. It's to be unified, unity. And in fact, the Sipornoi in Parshas Ba'aloscha tells us the mitzvah of the lamps in the Menorah teaches this lesson. It says in the lamp we had a central shaft, and then we had branches, 3 branches to the right and 3 branches to the left. He says the 3 branches of the right all pointed inwards to the central shaft. The 3 to the left also pointed inwards. He says, opposite the central shaft, Ya'iru Shivas Haneros, all 7 lights will shine, because the 3 on each side point to the inner one. Says the Siporno, what are the 3 on the right hand symbolizing? They're symbolizing Torah, the people who learn Torah. What is the ones on the left? Those are the people, the Jews, who involve themselves in Parnasa. They work hard, and they help sustain the ones who learn Torah. He says when they face each other in unity, that's when Ya'iru Shivas Haneros, that's when they combine together as one, with one goal, to bring up Yiddishkeit in the world, to illuminate the world with Torah, and everyone's working for the same goal. That's when the true lights of the Menorah, Ya'iru, will be elevated, and they'll go upwards to heaven. And he says, and that's what we said when we received the Torah. We all answered, Ki ish echad b'leiv echad. There's all different types of Jews. You've got Jewish accountants, you've got Jewish dentists, Jewish doctors, you've got Jewish mechanics, you've got Jewish electricians, you've got all types. And you've got Talmidei Chachamim who learn Torah, who are designated for learning. You've got teachers, you've got Rosh Yeshivas, you've got wonderful people. And they all join together because, says the Siporno, the ones who study Torah rely on the other ones for their support. And therefore, when they combine together, is a unifying force. That's the strongest lesson of the lights of Hanukkah. So we've got to bring light to all those around us, avoid machloikas at all costs, bring harmony above anything else, and harmony and love together is greater than fulfilling the mitzvah, the great mitzvah of Hanukkah.